Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supergirl. So this is a really good episode where we have white Martians have come to Earth in particular to track down Magan. And one particular white Martian is his name's Armok. He is her betrothed, or her husband, or more rather. But basically, it works a little differently on Mars. That it's not just like a marriage type of situation. It's kind of like a arranged marriage type of thing. She didn't want to be with him, but it's just kind of like they're bound together. So, but the Earth equivalent would be an arranged marriage, and he is her husband. Essentially, what I really liked is the fact is that the DEO building got shut down because obviously Armok infiltrated disguised as Magan, and basically they're locked themselves in there because it's like, okay, he could literally be anyone. And I like that little deception art. It's almost like a monster movie. Obviously, it didn't have the horror element to it, but it's like, oh, you're trapped in there with a shape-shifting monster that could literally be anyone. And I don't know, I just love that premise of it. You're trapped in there with it, and it can literally be anyone. And it's a situation where everyone immediately starts turning on each other, especially those two agents. It's like, yo, she was eyeballing me. She thinks I'm the Martian. It's like, it must be her. And it's like, so quickly to turn on each other like that. It just kind of, under the circumstances, it's understandable, but still, it was, I don't know, I liked it. And then the only way to tell for sure was the flame. Basically, the flame revealed everyone's true nature. Like, for example, with John, it showed him being a green Martian. For Magan, it showed her being a white Martian. But at that time, I was like, well, the fact is, how will we know that she's being white? Like, that could be real Magan. I was like, that easily could be Armok pretending to be her. But then I was like, right, Supergirl was literally in front of Magan. Really, it wasn't necessary, but I'm sure, because she more so than anyone could vouch for Magan being her, because it's she was right near her. Because if Armok was going to get her, he would have to go through Supergirl to get to her, because she was right in front of her. I love the twist of it, finding out it's like, oh, the person behind it all, it was actually Wynn. He disguised himself as Wynn. Because, the thing is, because apparently you can't really, tell the difference, because they have the power, any, Martians have the telekinetic power. So basically, he downloaded basically all of what Wynn is, his personality and everything. And it even because it makes him even less suspicious, because he was the one that kind of suggested it's oh, let's tell stuff about each other that no one else would know. And he kind of threw out something that only Kara would know. But then John quickly shut down. He was like, yeah, they can get inside of her mind and everything. So it never crossed my mind it was actually Wynn until he got suspicious. Okay, you're up next one. He's like, what, me, what, what? And then he kind of reveals himself. And then I was kind of it's kind of interesting that you reveal yourself. I get you really didn't have much choice in the matter. But then it makes sense later on when you find out, oh, apparently he's not the only white Martian in there. And the moment they saw the cocoon, I was like, oh, who else got replaced? Don't tell me it's Alex. Which makes it sad, because it's they were having that whole sister conversation, just it was a beautiful moment. And it's oh, she was sharing that with an imposter. I love how everything really got settled, just because it's you have the white Martian pretending to be Alex versus Kara, and you have Magan and John versus Armok and everything. And so cool. It was so awesome. I'm sorry. I need to calm down. It was just so cool. Just seeing, especially you have Wynn trying to figure everything. It's okay, I'm fixing everything. And it's he's trying to do all this while these fights are going on. He's like, don't look behind you. Side note, I love the fact is that Kara brought it up first, when they were originally looking for Wynn. They were I think, wasn't it Alex who threw out that suggestion? Maybe she did that because she wanted to test to see whether Supergirl's power. God, I forgot. I think that was Alex who threw it out there, but obviously, quote unquote, Alex. So that was just kind of interesting, being oh, shouldn't Supergirl use her X-ray vision? Or maybe she already knew at that time, that's why she threw it out there, just to make sure that, oh, it's ha, you can't use your X-ray. But apparently, because the entire building is, the walls are built out of lead. She's oh, someone had to make the building out of lead. And then it's John is just kind of ignoring her. It's we already know there's a whole situation at the beginning with him and Clark. So obviously, just in case a situation like the whole Kryptonian thing from season 1 happened again, that, he's prepared, so, or a situation where it's oh, Clark or Kara gets controlled. It's oh, the building's kind of safe. They don't have to worry about that. And then you have the building set explode and everything. But Wynn saves the day by, shutting it down. He's come on, we have plenty of time. What? 12 seconds to spare? The fact is Magan's the one that dealt the final blow to Armok. I'm sure that felt good. And then Alex showing up at the last minute shooting that other white Martian, and she's like, have I said how much I love this gun? I was like, I forgot about that. She got it like 2 days ago when they were on that slave moon planet. She didn't use it at all last episode, did she? I don't remember. I mean, the fact is they took so much notice of it makes me think, no, she didn't use it last episode at all. So it had to be like, this had to be her first time using it. Which is like, thank you for making it so she really did keep the gun and didn't just say she was going to keep it. So I'm going to have to pay, like, that means from now on, I'm going to have to pay extra attention to see whether or not she actually takes that gun with her. It'd be funny if we get some moments like, she's like, crap, I forgot my gun at home. But, that's just kind of like obviously the main plot, but there's a lot of different like string off storylines. Obviously, the reason why Alex and Kara had such problems is because Alex kind of was like, "Oh yeah, going to a bare naked lady concert with Maggie." It's like, "Oh yeah, it's your Earth V-Day. Let's celebrate some other time." It makes sense. Like it's kind of a sad thing because at first Kara's like, "I am mad. I was mad," but then eventually she was kind of like she kind of came to understand why she's acted that way because throughout her entire life she's always had Alex be there for her. She's never really had to share Alex with anyone. Alex is always has been and always will be her rock. Someone that she can always lean on and count on, especially during this tough time because of the whole Mon-El situation. But I'll get to that in a second. But, it's just kind of like, it's a situation where it's like she feels like she's losing her sister. Her sister's got, Maggie, and it's just kind of like, oh man, they're off having so much fun and everything. It's like for Kara, it definitely feels like she's coming second. Like, I'm honestly surprised it hasn't come up sooner because it's just like, oh, her and Maggie are spending so much time together. So it's like, obviously, you're going to be a little jealous because you won't be seeing your significant other. Like, because Alex is her sister as well as her best friend, the person she relies on the most. But, Alex is like, no matter what happens, I'm always going to be there for you. It's kind of a similar circumstance. It's like if someone feels like, oh, they're missing out, like their friend doesn't hang out with them as much because they've got especially for Alice, because it's like, oh, she's got herself, to our knowledge, like I said, like, it seems like she's never really dated before. Like, if she has, she hasn't really brought it up. So Maggie's might be her first significant other ever. So, it's for one, the relationship's new. She's like madly in love. She's loved and loved. She loves someone and that person loves her in return. So it's such a beautiful thing that, you tend to kind of get swept off your feet and everything else kind of takes a side note to everything. The point is to kind of have balance. And I'm sure that's something Alex is going to try to do more of in the future. It's like, yeah, Maggie's important to her just as much as Kara is important to her. So she kind of has to find a balance of, because I'm surprised it's like, it almost seemed like, because she didn't even bring it up. It's like, to me, if I brought it up, I'm sure Maggie would have been like, are you stupid? Your sister's birthday's coming up. Her Earth birthday's coming up. It's a monumental day. It's the day she came to this planet and became your sister and everything. It's like, go off. But she never actually told Maggie. Because I feel like if she had, Maggie would have told her, like, don't bother coming to a concert with me. It's like, go be with your family. Your sister needs you. Your sister loves you. It's like, dude, we can, like, spend time together some other time, That's how, but it didn't play out that way, so. But going to the whole situation with Mon-El, that's a little heartbreaking in the sense of just, like, Kara at first is being like, yeah, the fact is we wouldn't work well together, it's like, I don't hate you or anything, but it's like, essentially it's like, I have my job at Catco and everything, and that's, that's new and that's happening with me, and I'm a reporter and everything, so I gotta be focused on that, but when I'm not that, I have to be Supergirl. It's kind of like, basically kind of alluding like, I don't really have much place in my life for a significant other right now. Like, she's still not even referencing the fact that, like, her and Jimmy, like, I'm sure that'd be understandable. It's like, it hadn't been that long since their relationship. I mean, granted, maybe it has actually been a while, but, she really doesn't have the focus for a relationship right now. Plus, she's like, oh, plus you're you. And then Mon-El's like, okay, I'm just gonna go over there. Because to me, like, the way she phrased it, and even she's like, oh, I shouldn't have said it that way. I've literally stuck both my feet in my mouth. The way she's saying it like that makes it seem like her biggest problem is more so than anything that he's a Daxamite. It's almost what that could be seen as. But more so than anything, it's the fact is that that she it's basically based on his personality. He has a very party mentality. Like, because it's kind of based on what she knows about Daxamites, but I think it's also because of what she's seen by him. That, he's only trying to be a hero for a very selfish reason. He doesn't really care about helping people. He only wants to do it to be close to me and everything. But even then, it comes into question because she's like, okay, I'll have what Mon-El's having. And she's like, oh, He's been drinking club sodas for like the past week, a drink that she drinks all the time. And it's because, obviously Monel's a party dude, so obviously he'd be drinking any kind of alcoholic stuff and everything. But it's like seeing him drinking the drink that's, that she drinks, it kind of shows that, I guess, that he's taking things a little more seriously, that he's not just partying it up, that he is trying his best for her because he wanted to be the person that she could be, that she could eventually have feelings for, I don't know, it's just more like, because even Alex herself says this whole situation for her birthday, obviously she put a lot of planning and stuff into her birthday, but that's because it was meant to kind of act as a distraction when she tries to figure out this whole Monel thing. And it's like, she possibly has feelings for him, but it's just kind of like, she doesn't want to put herself out there. That's what it comes down to, because she's afraid to put herself out there because it hasn't worked out, because things between her and Jimmy fell apart. And I guess, and it's a mentality that I can understand. It's like, once you've gone through heartbreak, you're afraid to kind of go through that again, and, she's afraid that, because because it also means once they go forward, there might not be any going back. Even when they try to be friends and everything, things might still be weird and awkward for her. I mean, granted, things between her and Jimmy seem okay, but maybe this will be a little bit different. Plus, Monel would kind of understand you more than anyone because of the whole situation, like being an alien from a different planet, having powers and everything. So, but sadly, at the end of the episode, we see Monel taking. I can't remember the lady's name. She has the new job from that Kara used to. She has the old job, Kara's old job. She even popped up in the episode of The Flash last week when Gypsy and Vibe ended up fighting, and they ended up vibing to Earth 38, and she's the one who was like, oh god, this city gets weirder and weirder. So now we have Kara kind of walking away a little more heartbroken, obviously, because she was, the sad thing is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but in this circumstance, what makes it even worse is because she never got an opportunity. It's you don't take those chances when you have them. But I mean, it takes a while to kind of sort out your feelings and see where you are. And, she sat down, got a different perspective, kind of realized like, okay, I might have feelings for Monel. It's like, we won't really know until we sit down and kind of talk this out and see where things go from here. But now she won't get that chance. At least for now. We have to wait and see how everything kind of works out going forward. So, I mean, for Monel, he's just trying to move on. The sad thing is, like, he's like, oh, yeah. She's like, Kara's like, oh, that's a quick turnaround. He's like, yeah, but you tell me you don't have feelings for me, so I'm moving on. More so, it's kind of a situation where it seems like, she's just kind of a rebound, It's just like, trying to mend your heart because it's like, it's a little broken right now, so you just want somebody to help mend it, Like, whether or not you really 100% like that person or not, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I mean, granted, when his first day at Catco, they did almost have sex before Kara kind of busted in and ended up, interrupting them. So there was another conversation that came up in this episode too, like after everything, because initially Kara still brought up the fact that she's not 100% okay with the whole Win and Jimmy situation, the whole Guardian situation. But then at the end of the episode, after, Win's like, oh, I'm going to go help out Jimmy, unless you have a problem. She's like, no, you go ahead, just be careful. And he's like, okay. So it seems like she might is the word, be okay with the whole Jimmy and Win being vigilantes type of thing. We will have to definitely wait to see on that one. But it seems like after seeing Win kind of handle himself under like such a pressured situation, saving the day, stopping the building from exploding, it seems like maybe, just maybe, he's okay. I mean, she's okay with what they're doing. Like I said, just have to 100% wait to see how that all plays out. And then finally, the Magan and John situation. Now, there's something that kind of, obviously, like, it seems like, because for him, he's like, basically, he's had a hole in his heart since the whole situation with his family. But basically, like, he sees Magan in a different way. He sees her as a very kind-hearted person. It's like, because the fact is that she was willing to sacrifice herself. She's like, I'm going to turn myself over to my people so they will leave you alone. Because if I don't do it, they're just going to hurt you and your friends. But, John was like, you're important to me. And they're not just my friends, they're your friends as well. He's like, but basically, she feels that hole in his heart. He never thought that the situation would be like, especially subsequently finding out she's a white Martian, that she would ever be the one to fill that hole in his heart, but she did. Now, to me, I'm bringing up the question of like, which way does he mean that? Because I brought it up before. My only experience with Magan has been from Young Justice. So in that circumstance, they have a familial relationship, kind of an uncle and niece situation. But I don't know whether they're going to change that for the show, where it's like, oh, is it going to be like, is she going to be kind of like a daughter to him? Because he did have like 2 daughters. So is she kind of supposed to be like another daughter for him? Or is it kind of more intimate relationship? I'm just curious. I honestly can't tell. I think it's leaning more towards the intimate relationship, but I could be wrong. I mean, that's definitely something we'll definitely have to see. But she left. She left so that she can possibly change the mind of her people. Because that was something I don't remember coming up in Young Justice at all. Don't even know if that's kind of part of her backstory. I don't know if she's the only white Martian left in the comic books. I'm sure she's probably not. I know John is definitely the last Green Martian, obviously, but you know, in this one, her people are still alive and everything, so she wants to try and change their mind. She's like, not every one of her people can just be so happy with, you know, white. Because it doesn't seem like it even stops with the Martians because of what Armac was saying. It's because it's like, oh, that now they're a pure-blooded race. They've got rid of those greens. It actually kind of reminds me of the whole Daxamite and Kryptonian type of situation. Obviously, it hasn't gotten to that point, but given enough time, and you know, I feel like Krypton and Daxam would have eventually gotten to that situation. Because there's kind of a blood feud between the different planets, because it was a situation of like, oh, one planet felt like, acted like they were better than the other and kind of looked down on the others. Kind of the same situation with the white Martians and the green Martians. The white Martians felt like the green Martians were always trying to look them down, and they were just all these disgusting abominations that needed to be taken care of. Magan was like, who's to say this will all end? Like, now, yeah, you've got control of Mars and everything, good for you, but who says that would be enough? What's to say you won't attack another race? Like, who might be your next target? It's like anyone that stands in our way or kind of tries to think there are better, you know, because white Martians like to believe they're the best, so. But she wants to change the mentality. She wants to see if there's anyone else out there like her, and she's like, no matter, you know, it might be something dangerous. No, it will be something dangerous. It might even get her killed, but it's still something she has to do, because if she doesn't change her mind, the white Martians will always keep coming back to try and take her, you know, back for punishment for the fact of what she did. Especially when it came to Armat, because she's the reason why he has the scars on his face and everything. She kind of left him for dead. But that is, obviously it won't be the last we see of Magan. I do hope she comes back soon, because it's just like, I don't know, like it might be a situation where they're like, because like, no matter what you got to say about Supergirl, like Supergirl does a very interesting thing where it doesn't let its character sit around too long. Because a big complaint people have, I don't have this complaint, but it's something I hear a lot. Like, that was always a thing about Arrow, and especially about Flash, but in particular Arrow, that the team was always a little beefy. The fact is, they always had people they never really knew 100% what they wanted to do with them. So I guess the fact is that they're doing this with Magan means like they're trying to give her something off script to do, and then obviously she can come back, pop up every once in a while. It's kind of like kind of the same reason why Superman doesn't show up around a lot of times. It's got obviously we introduced to him and everything, but it's like Clark's got his own life to live the same way as Kara, so it's like the main focus is all the people that are around her. But I guess to keep that group a little trimmed and slim around the edges makes it a little easier to work with. This way you make sure everyone's kind of got stuff to do, even if they're not on camera. At least they're off doing something. You have some idea of what they're up to, whether or not they're just not just twiddling their thumbs essentially. So, but overall, a very good episode. Very interested to see where everything goes from here, especially, you know, like I said, at the end we see John a little brokenhearted too. So it's like both him and Kara are kind of in the same circumstances. Like I said, what this means going forward with Wynn, Jimmy, and Kara, where they all stand, where the whole Mon-El and Kara situation stand, just like relationship central, just where everyone's relationship stands, where everyone's still on good terms or bad terms or weird terms or lovey-dovey terms or just awkward terms, just where everyone stands is kind of where I'm getting at. I did catch a little preview of next week's episode. It seems like we'll be dealing a little bit with the Luthors, and I'm very interested to see what that's going to be all about, how that's all going to play out. Because I figured we weren't going to be done with this whole Cadmus storyline. It does make you wonder, will Cyborg Superman kind of pop up, since, you know, Lena's mom is in jail and everything. So I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really watch too much of the previews, but I am very interested to see what does go down. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.